Chapter 1. Behind Her Silence. Arya Winslow woke up before the sun. The house was quiet. Too quiet. She sat on the edge of the bed and held her hands together. Her hands were cold. Her heart was heavy. She looked at the door of the children's room. She whispered to herself, "I hope today is easy." But she knew her days were never easy. She walked to the kitchen. She made breakfast with slow hands. She tried to smile when she heard Leora laugh. She tried to smile when Emery said, "Mommy, good morning," but inside her chest there was a pain she never shared. She watched Callum help the kids get ready. She wanted to say something warm. She wanted to say something simple, but her voice stayed silent. Callum did not notice her silence. Or maybe he did, but he did not ask. They all sat at the table. Arya looked at the food, but she felt no hunger. Callum said, "I will be late today." His voice was flat. She nodded. She did not ask where he was going. She did not ask who he would meet. She just said, "Okay." The kids talked about school. They talked about their drawings. Their voices were sweet. But Arya felt like she was watching a life that did not belong to her. When Callum dropped the kids at school and left for work, Arya sat on the couch. She held a pillow and closed her eyes. She said softly, "I am tired." Her voice broke. She was tired of hiding, tired of pretending, tired of smiling in a house that felt colder every day. She whispered, "I wish I could tell the truth." But the truth was big. The truth was sharp. The truth could break her family. She was afraid of it. She walked to the children's room. She touched their drawings on the wall. She said, "You both deserve love. You both deserve peace." But her eyes filled with tears. She knew she was living inside a lie. She knew the truth about their father. She had carried this truth for years. She had locked it deep in her heart. She could not let it escape. Not now. Not yet. When Callum came home in the evening, he barely looked at her. He washed his hands and walked past her. She said, "How was your day?" He said, "Fine." Nothing more. No smile. No warmth. They lived in one house, but lived far from each other. Arya felt that distance every day. She felt it in the way he stood, in the way he spoke, in the way he avoided her eyes. At night, she lay on her side of the bed. Callum lay on his side. They faced opposite directions. There was a wide space between them, a space filled with old hurt, a space filled with silence. Arya kept her eyes open. She remembered the early days of their marriage. She remembered holding his hand. She remembered laughing with him. Now she only heard his quiet breathing. She whispered to herself, "Where did we go wrong?" Her phone buzzed once. She looked at the message. It was from an unknown number. The message said, "We need to talk." Her heart jumped. Her hands shook. She locked her phone quickly. She pulled the blanket over her chest. She closed her eyes. She hoped Callum did not see her fear. In the dark room, Arya felt her life closing in around her. She felt the lies pressing on her chest. She felt the silence becoming louder. She felt the secret inside her rising again. She wanted to scream. She wanted to run. But she stayed still. She whispered, "Not now. Please, not now." Her tears fell quietly. She wiped them fast. She did not want Callum to hear her. He had already turned his back to her. She looked at the ceiling and said in a broken voice, "I am sorry." She was not sure if she was apologizing to Callum, to her children, or to herself. This was her silent world. A world where truth hid in the dark. A world where love was missing. A world where her heart lived alone. Chapter 2. Signs and Shadows. Arya woke up with the same heavy feeling inside her chest. She sat on the couch while the kids got ready for school. Callum grabbed his phone again and again. He typed fast. He smiled once at the screen. Arya saw it. Her heart sank. She did not ask anything. She only said, "Breakfast is ready." He said, "I am not hungry." His voice was sharp. He walked out with his phone in his hand. Leora looked at Arya and asked, "Mommy, is Daddy angry?" Arya forced a small smile. She said, "No, sweetheart. He is just tired." But she knew it was not the truth. After the kids left, Arya sat in the quiet house. She tried to breathe slowly. She tried to calm her mind, but her stomach hurt from worry. She whispered, "Something is wrong." She looked at her phone again. The message from last night stayed in her mind. The words, "We need to talk," felt like cold fingers pulling her back into fear. She put her phone away. She covered her face with both hands. She said softly, "Please, not again." When Callum came home early in the afternoon to pick something up, Arya stood near the doorway. His phone rang. He looked at the screen and turned away. He said, "I need to take this." Arya said, "Okay." Her voice was small, but when he walked the hallway, she heard him say in a low voice, "I miss you, too." Her legs became weak. She held the table to stay steady. Her eyes filled with tears, but she did not cry out loud. She only said to herself, "Why is this happening to us?" Callum came back into the room. He did not make eye contact. He looked for his car keys. Arya watched him silently. Her heart wanted to ask, "Who is she?" But her lips did not move. Her guilt stopped her. Her secret stopped her. And the fear of losing everything stopped her. Callum said, "I will be late again." Arya nodded. She said, "Be safe." He gave a soft, "Yeah," and left the house. The door sounded heavy when it closed. Later that day, Arya found something she could not ignore. A hair tie. It was not hers. She held it in her hand. She felt her chest tighten. She whispered, "What is this?" Her hands shook as she placed it on the table. She sat down. She felt like the ground under her feet was breaking. She remembered Callum smiling at his phone. She remembered the late nights. She remembered the message she heard. All the pieces now made sense. In the evening, when Callum returned, he talked fast about work. His words felt empty. Arya listened quietly. She said nothing. When the kids went to bed, she tried to speak. She said, "Callum." He said, "What?" She said, "Are you okay?" He replied, "I am fine." His tone was cold. She looked at him with tired eyes. She said in a soft voice, "We do not talk anymore." Callum sighed. He rubbed his forehead. He said, "Arya, please. I am stressed. Do not start tonight." Her mouth closed. Her heart broke again. That night, Arya sat on the edge of the bed for a long time. Callum turned to the other side of the bed again. The space between them felt like a wall. She looked at the ceiling and said, "We are not the same anymore." Her voice cracked. She covered her face and tried to cry quietly. She did not want the kids to hear. She did not want Callum to hear. She whispered, "Please, someone help me. I cannot live like this." She remembered the unknown message again. She opened her phone. She looked at it. She wanted to delete it, but she could not. She only stared at the words. "We need to talk." Her mind went back to her biggest truth. The truth about the children. The truth she never told Callum. The truth that could destroy him. She whispered, "Not now. I cannot deal with everything at once." The next morning, Emery hugged her softly and said, "Mommy, Your eyes look sad. Arya kissed his head and said, I am fine. But she knew she was lying. She was lying to him, to Leora, to Callum, and to herself. The lies were getting heavier. The silence was getting louder. The fear was getting stronger. She looked at her family and knew one thing. Something dark was growing between them, and soon it would break open. Chapter 3. The Man at the Library. Arya walked to the library the next day with a tired heart. She wanted a little quiet time. She hoped reading something simple would help her breathe. She picked a book and sat down. Her hands were shaking. She tried to steady them. She whispered, Please let today be gentle. She opened the book, but the words did not enter her mind. She felt too heavy to focus. A soft voice came from beside her. Is the seat taken? Arya looked up. A man stood there with a book in his hand. His name was Elian Thorne. His eyes looked calm. His face looked kind. Arya said, No, you can sit. She felt nervous, but she did not know why. Ellen sat down and smiled softly. He said, You look tired. Are you okay? Arya froze for a second. No one had asked her this in a long time. She looked down at the book. She said in a low voice, I am fine. But a tear almost slipped from her eye. Ellen noticed it. He said gently, Sometimes saying fine is harder than telling the truth. Arya kept her eyes on the book. She whispered, Life feels heavy. He nodded. He did not ask more. He did not judge her. He simply said, I understand. These two words touched Arya's heart in a way she did not expect. She felt her chest loosen a little. She took a slow breath. For the first time in months, someone saw her pain without asking for explanations. As they spoke softly, Arya felt something surprising inside her. Not excitement, not attraction, just a small moment of peace, a kind of peace she had not felt at home for years. Ellie said, If you ever want someone to talk to, I am here. Arya looked at him and said, Thank you. Her voice cracked a little. She looked away quickly so he would not see her tears. After some time, Arya stood up to leave. She said, I should go. Ellen said, Take care. His voice was warm. Arya walked out with slow steps. She told herself, He is just a kind person. But the feeling of being seen stayed with her the whole walk home. When she entered the house, Cal was on the phone again. His tone was soft, softer than the tone he used with her. He said quietly, I will call you later. He ended the call fast when he saw Arya. She said, Who was that? He said, Work. The answer was quick. Too quick. Arya felt sharp pain in her chest. She looked at him and said softly, We do not talk anymore. Callum sighed loudly and said, Not now. Arya, I am busy. He walked away. Arya stood in the hallway alone. She closed her eyes as tears filled them. She whispered to herself, Why does it hurt so much? She wanted to scream, but no sound came out, only silence. Silence that had been growing between them for years. Later that evening, when she cleaned the living room, she found a perfume smell on Callum's jacket. It was not hers. She picked up the jacket. She held it close. She whispered, Who is she? Her hands shook. She put the jacket down and sat on the couch. Her thoughts were loud. Her heart was louder. She felt the truth getting closer every day. She felt her life falling apart slowly. That night, Callum sat on the edge of the bed. He was texting someone. He smiled a small smile. Not for his children, not for Arya, but for someone else. Arya watched him. She felt tears running down her face. She said quietly, Callum, we are drifting. He did not look up. He only said, Go to sleep? She felt her heart break inside her chest. She turned away and wiped her face fast. When the lights went off, Arya lay awake. Her mind went back to Ellen. She remembered the way he said, "I understand." That one moment gave her a kind of courage. She whispered to herself, "Some people see the pain in your eyes before you say a word." She felt grateful for that small moment of kindness, but she also felt guilty. She felt like she had no right to feel peace anywhere. Her phone buzzed again. Another unknown message. "We need to talk soon." She held her breath. She felt fear rise again. She closed the message quickly. She whispered, "Please, not now. I cannot handle more." Arya wrapped her arms around herself. Her life felt like two broken halves. One half was a marriage with silence and secrets. The other half was a kind stranger who saw her truth with one look. She did not want to break any rules. She did not want to hurt anyone. She only wanted one simple thing: to breathe without fear. Chapter 4, Cracks in the Marriage. Arya woke up with a strange heaviness inside her. It was not new, but today it felt deeper. She walked into the kitchen to prepare breakfast. Her hands moved slowly. Her thoughts moved faster. She kept thinking about the perfume smell, about the hair tie, about the way Callum smiled at his phone. She whispered to herself, "What is happening to us?" She felt her voice shake. The children sat at the table. Leora looked at Arya with worried eyes. She said, "Mommy, you look sad." Arya tried to smile. She said, "I am just tired." Emery held her arm and said, "Mommy, I will make you happy." His words touched her heart so deeply that she had to look away for a moment. She hugged him softly and said, "Thank you, sweetheart." But her smile stayed weak. Callum walked into the room with his phone in his hand. He did not look at anyone. He said, "I need to leave early." Arya said, "Okay." Her voice was soft. The children waved at him, but he walked out quickly. Arya watched the door close. Her heart hurt. She whispered, "We used to talk. We used to laugh." She wiped a tear before it fell. Later that afternoon, Arya tried to clean the house to distract her mind, but every corner reminded her of something painful. The empty couch, the untouched dinner table, the silence between rooms. She sat down for a moment and placed her hand on her chest. Her heart felt too heavy. "I am losing him," she whispered. "I am losing myself, too." She closed her eyes. A tear rolled down slowly. When the kids came home, they ran into her arms. She felt their warmth. She felt their innocence. It hurt her even more. She did not want them to feel any pain. She wanted them to have a safe home. But the cracks in the marriage were deep now. She could see them. She could feel them. And she knew the children felt them, too. At dinner, Callum came home late again. He barely touched his food. He said, "I have so much stress." Arya said softly, "We can handle it together." He looked up at her with empty eyes. He said, "Arya, we do not even talk." His words hit her like a knife. She said, "I want to talk, but you walk away." Callum sighed. He rubbed his face. He said, "Everything feels wrong." Then he stood up. He said, "I need space." He walked away before she could reply. Arya sat alone at the table. Her hands trembled. Her eyes burned. She whispered, "I am trying." Her voice broke. She rested her head on her arms and cried quietly. She did not want the kids to hear. She did not want to scare them, but the pain was too much. That night, while the children slept, Arya found a folder on Callum's desk. She opened it slowly. Her breath caught in her throat. The papers inside were printed forms, divorce forms. She held them with shaking hands. She whispered, "No, not this." Her tears fell onto the papers. She covered her mouth to silence her sobs. Her whole body felt weak. Callum walked into the room. Arya wiped her tears fast, but he saw her holding the papers. His face froze. He said in a low voice, "Arya, it is not what you think." She said, "Then what is it?" Her voice cracked. He looked down. He said, "I am confused. I feel lost." She felt her heart break again. She said, "Why didn't you tell me?" He whispered, "Because you feel far away from me." Arya felt a deep pain. She said softly, "You are far away, too." They stood there in silence for a long moment. Two broken hearts in one room. Two people who did not know how to hold each other anymore. Arya whispered, "Please tell me the truth." Callum looked away. He said, "I cannot do this tonight." He walked out again. Arya stood alone. She placed a hand over her heart. She said, "We are falling apart." That night, she could not sleep. She lay in bed staring at the ceiling. She whispered, "Please help me." Her voice was tired. Her eyes were full of pain. She remembered Ellen saying, "I understand." She remembered the way Callum looked at someone else through a message. She felt trapped between hurt and guilt. She felt the truth inside her pushing harder. The truth she never told Callum. The truth about the children. She whispered, "I do not know how to survive all of this." The cracks in the marriage were no longer small. They were wide now. They were deep now. And Arya could feel everything breaking inside her. Please don't forget to like, share, subscribe to our channel, English Through Story. Chapter 5, A Voice from the Past. Arya woke up with a tight feeling in her chest. The night had been long. She had barely slept. Her eyes were swollen from crying. She sat on the side of the bed and tried to breathe. She whispered, "I have to stay strong." But it was hard. The cracks in her marriage were too deep now. The silence between her and Callum felt like a wall she could not walk through. She walked into the living room to check her phone. She wanted to see if Callum had left any message. There was nothing from him, but there was another message from the same unknown number. The message said, "Answer your phone." Her hands shook. Fear rushed into her chest. She whispered, "Not today. Please, not today." But the phone rang again, the same number. With shaking fingers, she picked up the call. A voice froze her in place, a voice she hoped she would never hear again. "Arya," the man said. Arya's breath stopped. It was Thatcher Voss, her ex-husband, the real father of her children. She felt her heart break open again. She held the phone tightly. She did not speak. Thatcher said, "It has been many years. I want to see the children." Arya closed her eyes. She whispered, "No, you cannot call me." Thatcher said, "They are my kids, too." Arya's voice cracked. "Please do not do this. Do not come back." But Thatcher said, "I will come. I need to see them." The call ended before she could say anything more. Arya sat down on the floor. Her hands covered her face. She whispered, "Why now? Why after all these years?" Her whole body felt weak. The truth she had buried for so long was rising again. She felt fear in every part of her. She said softly, "Please, God, give me time." She knew this truth could destroy everything. She knew it could break the children, and she knew it could break Callum completely. She wiped her tears and walked to the library. She needed a quiet space to think, but when she sat at the same table, she felt her chest shake. She whispered, "I cannot handle this." And that was when Ellen walked toward her. He stopped when he saw her face. He said softly, "Arya, what happened?" She looked up and her eyes filled again. She tried to speak, but only one sentence came out. "I am falling apart." Ellen sat beside her. He did not touch her. He did not ask too many questions. He only said, "You are carrying too much alone." His voice was gentle. His words felt safe. Arya looked at him with broken eyes and said, "My life is not as simple as it looks." Ellen nodded. "Sometimes people live with pain no one else sees." She wiped her tears and whispered, "I am scared. I do not know how to fix anything." Ellen said, You do not have to fix everything in one day. Just breathe. His kindness felt like a soft hand on her heart. She whispered, "Thank you. I needed someone to listen." Ellen nodded again. "I am here." Later, on her way home, Arya stopped near a cafe. She froze. She saw Callum sitting inside with a woman, the same woman whose perfume she smelled. Arya stood outside the window, her eyes filled with tears. She watched Callum lean forward and speak softly. The woman touched his hand. Callum did not pull back. Arya felt the world around her fade. She whispered, "How long has this been happening?" She held her chest. She felt something inside her break for real. She turned away before they could see her. Back home, Arya sat on the couch and cried silently. She cried for her marriage. She cried for her children. She cried for the truth she could not speak. She cried for the woman she used to be. She whispered, "I am losing everything. I do not know what to do." Her tears fell again and again. She hid her face in her hands. She felt alone in a way she had never known. When Callum came home that night, she could not look at him. He said, "Why is the house so quiet?" She did not answer. He walked into the kitchen. He did not notice her swollen eyes. He did not ask if she was okay. He only said, "I have work tomorrow." Arya whispered, "Okay." She sat on the couch long after he went to bed. She whispered, "Everything is falling apart at the same time." Her phone buzzed again. Another message from the unknown number. "We will talk soon." Arya closed her eyes tightly. She whispered, "Please stop. I cannot take more." She felt everything closing in, her marriage breaking, her past returning, her heart collapsing. She knew this was only the beginning of the storm. Chapter 6. The Night Everything Broke. Arya sat alone in the living room after everyone slept. The silence felt stronger tonight. Her heart felt tight, as if something inside her was slipping away. She kept thinking about the cafe, about the way Callum looked at another woman, about the message from Thatcher, and about the paper she had found. Everything was mixing inside her like one painful storm. She whispered to herself, "I cannot carry all this anymore." Her voice broke. She placed her hands on her face and tried to steady her breath, but her chest still trembled with fear. She walked slowly toward the bedroom. She hoped maybe Callum would look at her tonight. Maybe he would ask if she was hurting. But when she entered the room, he was lying on the edge of the bed with his phone. His back was toward her. The light from the phone touched his face for a second, and Arya saw a small smile. It was a smile she had not seen directed at her for months. Her heart sank. She said softly, "Callum, can we talk for a moment?" He sighed, rolled over slightly, and said, "Not right now, Arya. I am tired." She stood there quietly feeling something inside her slowly break. She sat at the foot of the bed and whispered, "I feel like I am losing you." Callum said, "Arya, please." "Not tonight." Her eyes filled, but she nodded. "Okay," she said. She stood up and walked away before he could see her tears fall. In the hallway, she noticed Callum's work bag lying open. She did not want to touch it. She did not want to find anything else that would break her heart. But something inside her told her the truth was already there. With shaking fingers, she reached into the bag and pulled out a stack of papers. She stared at the top page, and her legs almost gave way beneath her. They were divorce papers. Her name was on them. Her throat closed with pain. She held the papers tightly. Tears dropped onto the pages. She whispered, "How could you do this without talking to me?" She pressed her hand to her mouth to keep herself quiet. Her chest shook as she tried not to sob. She felt betrayed, abandoned, and terrified all at the same time. She felt the world she had held together for years finally falling apart. Callum walked into the dining room and froze. He saw the papers in her hands. His face changed. "Arya, wait," he said. She turned toward him, tears running down her face. "You were going to leave me?" she asked in a voice that barely came out. Callum stepped forward. "I was confused. I did not know what to do. I am not even sure I want this." Arya looked at him with broken eyes. "Then why hide them?" Callum looked down. "Because everything between us feels wrong." "I did not want to hurt you." Arya let out a painful breath. "You already did." They sat across from each other, and for the first time in a long time, nothing was between them except truth and pain. Callum rubbed his forehead and said, "Arya, you feel far away from me." She whispered, "You are far away, too." He looked up at her with tired eyes. "I do not know how to fix this." She looked down at the papers again. "I do not know either," she said. Her voice was soft, but full of heartbreak. Arya walked into the living room and sat on the couch. She hugged her knees and cried quietly. She whispered to herself, "Everything is breaking at the same time. I do not know how to survive all this." Her tears fell again and again, and each one felt heavier than the last. She thought of the children. She thought of the years she had spent trying to hold this family together. She thought of the truth she had never spoken. She whispered, "I am so sorry. I am sorry for everything." When she returned to the bedroom, Callum was still awake. He sat up slowly. His voice was quiet when he said, "Arya, is there something you are not telling me?" Her heart stopped. Her breath caught in her throat. She looked at him with wide, scared eyes. She whispered, "Yes." Callum leaned forward. "What is it?" he asked. Her lips trembled. She shook her head. "Not tonight," she said. "If I say it now, I will break completely." Callum stared at her. He looked worried for the first time in months. Arya lay down on her side of the bed. Callum lay on his. The distance between them felt larger than ever. She closed her eyes and whispered one last sentence into the quiet room. "Tomorrow will change everything." Chapter 7. The Truth That Destroyed Everything. Arya could not sleep the whole night. Her eyes stayed open in the dark. Her mind kept repeating the same sentence she told herself at the end of yesterday. Tomorrow will change everything. When the sun came up, she felt weak. Her hands were cold. Her chest felt heavy, like she was carrying a secret too big for her small body. She sat at the edge of the bed and whispered, "It is time. I cannot hide anymore. I must speak today." Her voice trembled. She felt fear, guilt, and relief mixed together. Callum woke up slowly. He looked tired. His face had no anger, only confusion and pain. When he saw Arya sitting far from him, holding her hands tightly, he knew something was coming. He said quietly, "Arya, talk to me." She looked at him with red eyes. Her lips shook. "I need to tell you something," she whispered. Callum sat up. His hands rested on his knees. He looked scared. He said, "Is it about us?" Arya nodded. "Yes, about us. About everything." She took a deep breath and closed her eyes for a second. Then she looked at him. Her voice was soft, but full of truth. "Leora and Emery are not your children." Callum froze. He did not blink. He did not breathe. He just stared at her like the world had stopped. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then he slowly whispered, "What did you say?" His voice was breaking. Arya's tears fell. "I am sorry," she said. "I am so sorry. I should have told you years ago." Callum stood up from the bed. His hands shook. He pressed his palm to his forehead. "Arya, how could you hide something like this from me?" She cried harder. "I was scared. I had no strength. I thought I would lose everything if I told you." Callum walked away from her, then came back, then walked away again. He couldn't stand still. His chest rose and fell fast. He whispered, "All these years, I loved them like they were mine." Arya nodded through tears. "You were their father in every way that mattered." Callum looked at her with deep hurt. But you were not honest in the way that mattered. His words cut deep. He sat on a chair and covered his face with both hands. His body shook. He whispered, "Why did you let me believe a lie?" Arya cried. "Because I needed safety. Because I was broken. Because I was trying to escape something painful from my past. I did not plan to hurt you. I cannot speak. I felt trapped in my own fear." Callum did not look up. He just said, "You should have trusted me." Arya whispered, "I know. I failed you." The children woke up and walked into the room. Leora looked at Arya first, then at Callum. She asked softly, "Mommy, why are you crying?" Arya wiped her face quickly. She forced a smile. "I am okay, sweetheart." But Callum could not hide his tears. Emery walked toward him and whispered, "Daddy, what happened?" Callum closed his eyes. His voice was shaky. "Nothing. Buddy, Daddy is okay." But he wasn't. Even a child could see the truth. After breakfast, Callum went outside for air. Arya watched him through the window. Her heart felt like it was tearing apart. She whispered to herself, "I hurt the man who loved my children more than anyone ever did." She stood there for a long time, holding her arm with her other hand, just to stop herself from falling apart. When Callum came back inside, his face looked tired. He sat across from Arya again. His voice was low. "What do you want me to do now?" Arya shook her head. "I do not want anything from you. I just wanted the truth to be in the open." Callum looked at her with pain in his eyes. "The truth broke me. Arya," she whispered, "it broke me, too." He closed his eyes. One tear fell down his cheek. He whispered one more sentence that stabbed her heart. "Everything I built in my heart feels empty now." Arya dropped her gaze. She whispered, "I understand." Silence filled the room again. A painful, heavy silence. Callum stood up slowly. He picked up his jacket. "I need time," he said. "I cannot stay here today." Arya nodded, even though her soul felt like it was falling apart. She whispered, "Take all the time you need." Callum walked toward the door. Before leaving, he looked at the children one last time. His eyes filled with tears again. He whispered, "I love you both." Then he stepped outside. When the door closed, Arya finally broke. She sat on the floor and cried in a way she had not cried in years. She held her chest and whispered, "I destroyed everything. I have no one to blame but myself." Her tears kept falling. But somewhere inside that pain, a small voice still said, this was a truth. This was needed. Tomorrow would bring a new kind of pain. But today she faced what she had been running from. Chapter 8, When Everything Changed. Arya spent the whole day in silence. After Callum left, her body felt weak, but her mind felt strangely clear. She knew what she had done. She knew what she had broken. She sat near the children and held their hands tightly. Leora asked softly, "Mommy, is Daddy coming back tonight?" Arya swallowed her tears and said, "Not today, sweetheart." Leora rested her head on Arya's arm. Emery hugged her waist and whispered, "Mommy, please don't cry again." Arya kissed his head and said, "I am trying. I promise I am trying." Hours passed slowly. When evening came, Arya heard the door open. Callum stepped inside with tired eyes. He looked older than he looked in the morning. The children ran to him. He knelt down and hugged them tightly. He whispered, "Daddy loves you always." His voice shook, but he held them close for a long time. Arya watched this from a distance. Her heart broke again. She whispered to herself, "He deserved a better truth. He deserved a better me." Callum stood up and looked at her. His eyes were full of pain. He said quietly, "We cannot fix this." "Arya." She nodded slowly. "I know," he said, "but I will still be here for the kids." She whispered, I am grateful for that. There was a short silence. Then he said softly, I need to start a new life. Arya looked down. I understand. Callum walked past her. No anger. No shouting. Only deep sadness. Arya felt her heart tear. But she also felt something else. She felt the truth finally breathing. She felt the weight slowly lifting from her chest. It hurt, but it was real, she whispered. Maybe this is how healing begins. When Callum left again that night, Arya stood near the window. Tears rolled down her face, but they felt cleaner than before. She whispered to herself, I will be strong for my children. I will build a new life. I will not hide anymore. It was a promise she made to her own heart. This was not the ending she dreamed of, but it was the ending she needed to move forward. And for the first time in many years, Arya felt a small light inside her. It was hope. Please don't forget to like, share, subscribe to our channel English for a Day.